keep on kissing babies and hugging fat girls.
You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch! What? It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
And you t-shirts are too tight too, Billy! And you book a match with me against Ryan Keelan! Look at me! I'm a total package! I will rip him apart! I'm pissed now!
Where to, Stephanie?
WrestleRoasts on ad-free shows and ATC. Welcome, everybody, to WrestleRoasts. I'm here with Sergeant Slaughterhouse, Mr. Robert Karpeles, Monsieur Mike Lawrence. It's time for the roast of Goldust, baby. How's everyone doing today? That theme song, I mean, we'll get to it on Brightside. Top 5 theme songs ever for me. How about you, Scott?
I mean, it would be top 5 if I also tucked my dick in between my legs like you did while you listened to it.
Did you introduce Monday Night Robert Karpeles?
Monday Night Robert, yeah, Monday Night Karpeles. That's the nickname. We gotta get
Yes.
Robert is war.
Rob is war. What's your nickname be, Lawrence?
What you kind of on?
What?
I once called him the roast beast incarnate, which I liked.
The roast beef incarnate.
I like it because it just sounds like roast beef incarnate, which is what I look like.
Well, that's what
how
it
about
was.
How about instead of chronic, Crohnzic?
There you go.
It's the worst nickname I think I've ever given anybody. All right, folks. We got a big show this week. We're going to roast Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, and get to some other really fun stuff. First off, I want to thank our patrons for checking out the roast of Jim Cornette. It was a blast. As far as our patron schedule, we're off this week, but then we got Money in the Bank, No Mercy 2005, which Robert was on the creative team for. The roast of Billy Corgan, August 9th, we're off. August 16th, Wrestling's Dumbest Criminals. August 23rd, SummerSlam. August 30th, the roast of Vince Russo and the Reverse Battle Royal at TNA. For our $10 tier, something to sports entertainment with, since we don't have a $5 Patreon this week, you spring for that extra $5, folks. You're going to get me and Robert's review of both Road Rager and NXT's Great American Bash. It will be a much more detailed review than we, kind of throw back to how we used to do the show. So check it out. It's gonna be a lot of fun. For roasts coming up, we've got Kurt Angle next week, and I think Chris Kubas is going to be joining us. Lita, Booker T, and Lex Luger. And we got our big daddy-o. Well, that sounds like Diesel. We already did Diesel, but we're doing The Rock on August 22nd. Man,
So The Rock has like 30 nicknames, and you chose to call him Big Daddy-O.
Well, let's get
Yeah,
to
but all of his nicknames are copyrighted, so
yeah. Let's get to the bright side of Goldust, the bizarre one, Dustin Rhodes. I'll start off. He's my favorite Rhodes. He's not the most legendary. He's not the most revolutionary in terms of the business. I guess Cody's the most revolutionary in terms of the business, but I think he's the most talented. He took a ton of shit and came back. Started as the Natural in my mind, ended as the Natural. He's very much like the Undertaker, and that everyone else would have failed doing this gimmick. I love the Goldust. I love the Natural. I loved his tag team with Cody when it feuded against the Shield, and that was like the closest to what Roman is now, in the sense that they were a cool heel tag team. So you really needed a babyface team to cheer. His time in AEW has been very good, and I loved his match with Cody. I loved his book, Crossroads. It's in a lot of ways the book Shawn Michaels wanted to write about his faith. Like I said before, fantastic theme song. Loved his vignettes when we started. His Conan appearance was actually everything his Stern appearance wasn't. I just love the gimmick. Can we give him credit for that outfit? Imagine taking shit from the Click and getting in that giant pantyhose egg. Nothing worse than that. And as far as accolades,
or even just imagine taking a shit.
Yeah. And accolades, he was a WCW United States champion, a WCW six-man tag team champion, two-time WCW World Tag Team champion, NWA World Tag Team champion, 9-time WWE Hardcore champion, 3-time Intercontinental champion, and 3-time tag team champion. Mike, what do you think about Goldust?
Wrestling's greatest overachiever. He started off like, okay. And I wouldn't say he was ever like one of the worst nepotism cases, but he kind of wasn't great. We watched him in that Royal Rumble 91, and he was just, a bland baby face. And then, this character really changed things. This is probably in terms of, this was 96 when he started.
Yeah.
So this was the most attitude thing there was in a lot of ways. Some of like the really raunchy extreme shit, like Razor wouldn't work with him. Like the guys been around forever. I saw the second most Royal Rumble appearances, 13. He seems like a genuinely good dude. He seems like kind of a down-to-earth guy who has been knocked down to earth through various problems over the years, and always, picks himself back up. And, it's like, he's one of those people that like you want to be happy for. And he genuinely like seems like he's enjoying himself now. I mean, I know we talked about it with the Cody one, but I think that, that match between him and Cody was really his crowning achievement, even more so. This is a guy that was mid-card for all those years, and then he had this like really amazing masterpiece of an event with Cody, and he is an amazing wrestler. I will say, just as an addendum, I do think Dusty was much more revolutionary than Cody, because he was running opposition when people watch wrestling. That's harder.
Yeah, as the words came out of my mouth, I think that you're probably right. But
also, just the first one in a family to go, I'm going to pursue wrestling is so insane that you are the one that changes the course of everything, in terms of your family.
Wait, but then wouldn't that? So I guess Stu is more revolutionary than Brett.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Stu Hart's Dungeon. I mean, think of everybody he trained. Yes.
Yeah, it's more revolutionary to say I'm gonna be a wrestler and ruin my family than
yeah,
that I'm gonna be a wrestler and just not pay attention to my family. Scott,
I mean,
well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe this is real, but we not only got a handicapper, but we got the best ever. So I gotta ask, how are you so good at handicapping these games? I mean, 4-0, that's quite a streak already.
Well, let's talk about every pick I've given this year in the NFL as an example. 23-8. Every pick I've given this year. 4 weeks in the bag, 23-8. There's nobody in the country that can match what I do, but I always make sure, because anybody, Conrad, could make up anything. They could tell you and blow smoke and tell you, oh, I'm the greatest. But I am independently monitored and documented, so nobody could ever question what I say and go, I don't believe it. I send every pick to an independent monitoring and documentation service that has to get the pick before the game goes off and then publishes it after the game goes off, so anybody can see what I gave. And those picks for the year, every NFL pick so far, 23-8. And I think it's because I do more homework than anybody else. The average guy or gal watching this podcast, they don't have time. They have a career, they have jobs. They might read the newspaper or go online and see something, but they don't have time 80 hours a week to study the games. That's what I do. And I have a crew of guys behind me, my consultants, who every week we get together 3 times a week, and they throw their ideas at me. I throw my ideas at them. And then I pick the final 5 plays on Saturday and Sunday in college and pro football. So, I mean, I've got a great team behind me too, but we're all doing together hundreds of hours of homework. So you don't have to. It's all at VegasWinners.com.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to VegasWinners.com right now. Let's win some money.
A lot more people would be alive if Helen was the one making the money. Let's just say that.
Scott, what do you think about the bizarre one?
Oh, I love Goldust. I've always really liked Goldust. I've been reading dirt sheets since I was in like 4th grade, and I've never heard negative things about him other than the substance abuse. But in terms of Dustin as a person, people never shit on him for creative. They always said he was better than what he was given. He's the one person when you listen back and you find out, he's called the natural right away. And that's something that if you're a fan of wrestling, wrestlers would jump on that and shit on that. And they didn't with him. They said it was the truth, and it was the case with him. He was a natural. They said he was better than Dusty in the ring. And then I got to see him be better than Dusty in the ring. That Double or Nothing match was bonkers, man.
Well, for sure, bell to bell, he was better. He's better than Dusty and Cody.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think he might be like top 5 tag wrestlers of all time. It's just he never had like that very long-term tag team, but all the different tag teams he was in, the run with Booker T and stuff like that, he's so fucking great as a tag wrestler. And then with Cody, and was it 2013? Yeah.
And then
unfortunately QT kind of bumps him off that list, but
and then you hear from people like Stone Cold saying that the way Goldust was over until they kind of had to pull it from itself because it was getting a little too ridiculous. How big of a deal he was and how he wanted to work with him. And
yeah, I mean, Goldust, if Goldust stayed that Goldust character for 6 more months, imagine the feud he would have had with Austin. It would have been
and look, whether that was Vince ribbing the Rhodes and having him do that, I really don't know. But holy shit, he made it work. I mean, Goldust is right after the Mount Rushmore guys of the Attitude Era. It's Goldust. After Taker and Austin and EX, it's Goldust.
Yeah, like below Foley, but above Shamrock and Val Venis.
Yes. He was below Val Venis as an angle as well. Roberts.
He was, I think, perhaps the best nepotism hire in the history of wrestling, because when he first came out, he was not very good. He wasn't very good in his original WCW run. He wasn't very good in his WWF run. He was capable. He was serviceable. You knew he wasn't good because he's the first time. It's the first time ever where there was a father-son storyline, and the guys who beat the shit out of him won the feud. So that kind of speaks volumes about that. But that was because obviously Dusty and Dustin were going back to
Robert
to WCW.
On a scale of Brock Anderson to -1, how?
Well, I think -1 is a better worker than Brock Anderson. But
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, I think one of the things he's always gonna be remembered for is he was an okay wrestler at first who became a fantastic sports entertainer. There was nothing in the Dustin Rhodes catalog prior to 1996 that made you think that guy could pull off Goldust. And he exuded so much charisma with such a ridiculous gimmick that they did have to keep tweaking, because when that character first came out, it was clear that they were playing on homophobia. There's enough interviews they've talked about it. Vince was on that Landisburg show up in Canada where they're like, we know what you're doing. The crowds would chant homophobic things to him to the point where they're like, we're going to put him with Marlena. We're going to pull back. Some of the stuff that Lawler would say on commentary about Goldust was really uncomfortable and unsettling. That's the most polite way I can put that. But he transcended that character to the point where it became a family-friendly character, which is absolutely insane. The book dust stuff that he did was wildly entertaining and funny. The stuff he did with Lance Storm was funny and entertaining. When they gave him Tourette's, like any nonsense you threw at the guy, he made work. And whenever he was gone for a while and would come back at those Rumbles, he would get a massive pop. It's that Rey Mysterio kind of character of, doesn't matter how many times you beat him, doesn't matter how bad his booking is, when you hear the music and you see the entrance, the crowd comes alive for him. And I think that's a testament to the performer he is. And then my quick anecdote on him was, I was in college up in Gainesville, and I was at Carrabba's. A friend of mine was working there as a waiter, and the only person sitting alone at the bar was Dustin Rhodes. And I know his wife at the time was from Gainesville, his kids there, and I'm like, I don't know if I should go over and say, like, I always felt weird about approaching somebody. I was like, you know what, screw it. Let me just go over and say hi. And just wanted to say a quick, hey, I just want to let you know I'm a fan.
And he's like, hey, can you buy my drinks?
He literally sat there. He's like, he insisted I sit with him. He ordered me a drink. And the drink, he goes, I'm getting you a drink called Wolf Pussy that Barry Windham and I invented back when we used to be a team together. He treated on it. He was just happy to sit there and just have a conversation with somebody. Couldn't have been nicer. Had no idea who the fuck I was, and was just incredibly nice, respectful, a really good dude. And I would say I feel bad about ripping him apart, but nah, he's in AEW now, and clearly I'm the guy who hates AEW. So,
but by the way, that story could be a new segment called "Really Nice" or just "Really Lonely."
Oh man, I would win every time.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, when you were saying the best nepotism hire of all time, I'd say number 2, the best nepotism hire of all time is, hey, this is my son Vince Jr. and he's going to be announcing now.
That's true. That's true. I mean, that was like the Darth Vader of hires, you know. Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I mean, I have a lot of jokes on Goldust. These aren't particularly. I mean, again, it's like it is like when you write the jokes, you see how mean you can get, and you're like, I don't want to be this mean to the guy, you know.
Yeah, you're like, well, I don't want to go Jerry Lawler with it, but
yeah, I don't want to go Jerry Lawler.
No, there's that one promo that he does about like Target, because everyone had a shot, and it's like a minute long, and he says the other F word, or as Jerry calls it, the main one, and it's like a minute long. Was it like 96, 97? And it's funny because people don't count that time as Attitude Era. Really, they look at it more as when Austin wins the belt, but some of that shit, like the Pillman's got a gun, like
I think it's better than the Attitude. I think the 2 years leading up to Austin winning the title is probably.
Well, that's 97. They say it was King of the Ring, right? It was the first. Wait, when he does the Austin 316 speech is when it starts.
That was 96.
Yeah, it's 96, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but 97 you had like the heart hating America stuff. It's just like there's an edginess, like, and watching those Lawler promos and the levels that Goldust goes to, that you're just like, damn, this is fucking.
I did always feel bad for him because like his feud with Ahmed Johnson got cut short. His feud with Razor Ramon got cut short because these guys just didn't want to work with the character, and he did kind of take that personally. Except whenever he would work with these guys in the ring, he would elevate whoever he was in there with. It was just a very unfortunate product of the time.
Well, let's get to roasting the guy. We'll stick on Robert, the roast of Goldust.
All right. Goldust is the daughter Dusty Rhodes never wanted. Dustin Rhodes looks like what would have happened if Dusty's hard times involved having an eating disorder. He looks like if Dusty Rhodes starred in a remake of Thinner. Goldust is the grandson of a plumber, and based on his dating record, he continued the tradition of laying pipe. Dusty and Dustin had a falling out over Terry Runnels. Dusty didn't want the grandson of a plumber to become a rat catcher. Terry spent so much time on her back, you'd think she was booked against Dusty.
Oh, no.
Dusty was fired from WCW for blading, which is the least harmful thing Rhodes had done to his body at the time. Eventually, he's going to admit that the Goldust character only came about to cover up for him huffing paint. Goldust's costume was a parody of the Oscar statue, which is fitting since, like the Academy Awards, Goldust never put over a person of color. No, Goldust wasn't gay, since gay men tend to be in good shape. It must have been tough for Pat to play along when Vince was pitching this character. Oh yeah, Vince, all gay men wear makeup and quote movies. That's how you know they're gay. Goldust was androgynous, which means a combination of masculine and feminine characteristics, which immediately got him heat with Shawn Michaels for stealing his gimmick. Goldust is the best case scenario for a kid who gets sent to gay conversion camp. Sure, he's now a violent psychopath who paints his face and attacks others for a living, but at least he stopped kissing other men like a lunatic. At one point, the WWF wanted Marlena to wear a strap-on dildo. A valet with a dick? That would never work, said Triple H. The Goldust character was a crossdresser, which obviously made him a heel with the audience. That guy's wearing a wig, so we gotta boo him when he faces our heterosexual hero who's covered in baby oil and wears nothing but black briefs and knee pads like a real man. Goldust briefly wrestled as a born-again Christian who was clearly faking his devout status, once again stealing Shawn Michaels' gimmick. Dustin's 7 character was dropped when he was misinterpreted by WCW as a child abductor. Abducting children was the only way to get kids to watch WCW in 1999. Black Rain, 7, The Artist, all of his gimmicks look like someone did lazy customs on a Goldust action figure. Further proof that Mike Lawrence has a future in pro wrestling booking. That's it for me.
Robert Karpeles, everybody. I'll go next. The roast of Goldust. Goldust, the bizarre one, and Stardust, the one thing Dustin hasn't tried. Bruce Pritchard has gone on record saying Dustin is androgynous, not gay, which just sounds like a 4 a.m. excuse Carl Anderson gives his wife. I know she was naked, but she's androgynous, honey. Androgynous. Without makeup, Dustin looks like a lady a woman dates after dating a guy that hit her. Goldust briefly had a Tourette's gimmick, which made his family ashamed of him. He's the only person who caused a shock jock that makes a midgets ride Sibian say, "Okay, Dustin, that's a little much." You know you bombed when the front office says, "Can you just go back to being a sex offender?" In 1999, he got head from Al Snow, something I thought he only did for Mick Foley. He then became a born-again Christian, which is the most excited you'll see anyone on this podcast about a Christian. And TNA, he wrestled as Lone Star, named after Meltzer's reviews of his matches. Dustin once asked WWE if he could get breast implants because if you can't have your father's charisma, you can damn sure get his tits. Shattered Dreams was not just Goldust's finisher, but the reason Marlena filed for divorce. Scott Hall didn't want to feud with Dustin because he was afraid his son may see it. Oh, yeah, Scott, Goldust is the reason your kid's ashamed. Not the time you attacked a mall Santa because you thought he was the ghost of the guy you killed at a strip club.
Oh, boy.
He briefly wrestled as China Dust, not to be confused with the ashes or manager sells on his website. Anthony Anzaldo is his name, folks. He is a scumbag. He defeated Bam Bam Bigelow in his last match in WWE. It was dubbed the battle between the two types of dudes and ugly gay guy fucks. He fought Roddy Piper in a backlot brawl, which is the closest Roddy's come to being accepted in Hollywood. In AEW, he's feuded with Shawn Spears, QT Marshall, and Nick Camarado. Instead of roasting him, can we just set up a foundation? Tears for Spears? And not just because Habitat for Humanity already built QT a house. Black Rain, 7, Kink Dust. If those are the gimmicks that Vince Russo got on screen for Dustin, imagine the ones he didn't. Bro, you come out with spots like your dad, Dusty, but instead of on your gear, they're on your body and you're constantly shivering. Introducing HIV positive, bro. We say HIV instead of HIV so kids can watch. It's either that or Alvin AIDS. Bro, you and the Blue Meanie are gremlins that live in Scott Hall's butthole called the Insiders. You've got scars all over you and you're in blackface. Mrs. Butterfaceworth. Bro, you come in with a pride flag as a cape and a bomb strapped to your chest. Timothy McGay. Bro, after Austin throws you in the outhouse, you come back 4 months later with a sledgehammer completely covered in doo-doo. Preparation Triple H. Bro, you come out dressed as the New Year's baby. Oh, wait, we actually did that one. All right, those are my man. You really put yourself out there with an act out, folks. Let's cut to Mike Lawrence.
All right. Okay, let's see here. Dustin was Dusty's first son, delivered in the late 60s via C-section. You could still see the purple scar on Dusty's belly all those years later. Dustin was able to do something in wrestling that Dusty could never, ever do. Fit into a one-piece bodysuit. Dusty was barely in Dustin's life growing up, unlike Cody, who had a close relationship with Dusty. I guess it's true what they say. Absence makes the work rate better. Dustin started wrestling in his late teens, not because he loved it, but because he knew it was the only way he'd get to spend time with his dad. I ain't got time to play cats or teach you about the birds and bees, but if you want, we can take on that nefarious Teddy Biasi and get a peek at Sapphire's titties. Dustin had the nickname The Natural, even though it took him 10 years to find a gimmick that got over. He became a mid-card champion in WCW, where he helped Sting take on the Dangerous Alliance, and then formed an even more dangerous alliance with Terry Reynolds. Dusty hated her and disowned Dustin. Do you know how awful you have to be the most hated Terry in professional wrestling? Dustin and Terry named their child Dakota because they were too drugged up to remember which one she was conceived in. The North or South, I don't know. It's a long trip. Then he became Goldust, unlike his dad, who is now just Dust. He called himself the Bizarre One, and then Marty Jannetty was like, hold my Facebook page. Razor Ramon refused to work with him due to homophobia, which just shows how committed Razor was to portraying a Latino stereotype. I ain't wrestling no mang that wants to kiss another mang. And it's not like Goldust was actually gay. I mean, he wrestled the Ultimate Warrior and wasn't beaten to death. He had a famous Hollywood backlot brawl where he was riding a Ford Bronco. That angle was in such poor taste you'd think it was Sonny's pussy. They asked OJ to be a part of the angle, but he didn't want to lose the respect of the black community. Dustin was fired from the WWE 5 times. As Mickey James would say, that's a lot of trash bags. After a while, they even stopped wishing him well on his future endeavors. Like by the third time, they were just like, the WWE has parted ways with Goldust. Hopefully he gets his shit together. We need him to wrestle Al Snow on Sunday Night Heat. While in TNA, he was drinking, doing coke, and taking 40 pain pills a day. It was the lowest point in his life till he sobered up and tag teamed with QT Marshall. I won't say he looked awful in TNA, but you finally realized that he was Dusty's son. I love that TNA was the Ellis Island for drugged up, washed up ex-WWE guys. Give us your Dustins, your Hardys, your RVDs, and we'll let them entertain 300 people in Orlando. And yes, I'm going to do this exact joke on next week's Angle Roast. And I'm also going to do this joke when we run out of all the talented wrestlers and we have to roast Christian.
Oh, man, he gets it hard. Poor guy.
You know, much like Jimmy Uso's alcoholism, Goldust always finds his way back into the WWE.
Oh, no.
But now, instead of being a lower card veteran that only exists to put over green shitty talent in WWE, he's doing that in AEW instead. Yay! Dustin's back in the role he was always most comfortable in, being the second most famous Rhodes in the company. He'll never be Randy Orton, but at least he's not David Flair. Thank you, Dustin Rhodes.
Dustin Rhodes. Scotty Chaps.
Owen Hart was popular for ribs, but Goldust was popular for removing one. Goldust was Vince's way of telling everyone Hollywood is full of pedophiles. He looks like Corey Feldman's boogeyman. In the WWF, he's the bizarre one. In Jersey, he's an Italian woman at her grandson's wedding. His debut match in the WWF was with Marty Jannetty. This was done so right away Marty would know, this is a man, please don't try to fuck him. They originally wanted Dusty in the drag queen gimmick, but they were afraid of everyone busting in their pants. Dusty dressed like Goldust is my porn search history.
Yeah, I was about to say.
If Dustin is the natural, can we start calling Dusty the big naturals? When Goldust got heavy, he looked like the peanut M&M. Vince is so transparent. He hired the natural a few months after the steroid trial. 90s Goldust was like David Bowie, in that when he left a bar, he'd say, "Check ignition and may God's love be with you." Dustin is a little bit country and a little bit cock and balls. He looks like Al Bundy dressed like Peg Bundy. Dustin's ass is so flat, I'm almost convinced it's my father under that makeup. Goldust would breathe in deep, then breathe out strong. Years later, Cody would pay homage to this by sniffing his own farts. Dustin is the only Rhodes without a lisp, so Vince gave him a stutter. In red makeup, he looks like Darth. No one notices me at the mall. At AEW's first pay-per-view, Dustin and Cody stole the show. A callback to Dustin stealing Cody's bike after a DUI. Dustin versus Cody. Wow, I haven't seen a ring that bloody since Matt Hardy punched a wall on his wedding night. Dustin was the biggest car wreck of any second-generation star until Nick Hogan sped away with that title. He's the only over-the-hill wrestler who could make it over a hill. He looks like DDP Yoda. There's a 17-year difference between him and Cody. That means when Cody was a freshman in high school, Dustin was a junior. That's how dumb he is. So dumb he painted his face gold after being told he wasn't the brightest bulb in the box. Huh? All right, anyway, this is how I'm ending it. Even though he's amazing, it's hard to not think he didn't use his full potential. He's like if the devil went down to Georgia looking to buy some fireworks.
Oh, the roast of Goldust. We love you, Dustin. Let's get to Show and Hell. This is a very Goldust heavy show. And for Show and Hell, Mike Lawrence sent us a clip. If you haven't seen it, it's online. It's Kink Dust's first promo.
I'll tweet it out right now. So we're recording this Tuesday, and you'll be able to see this on our Twitter page.
Yeah. So it is. This is without a doubt this is one of his. I was about to say it's one of his incarnation. There is no without a doubt. My notes for this were Vader. My number one note is Vader had one of the most humiliating runs in WWE history. If you besides his match with Shamrock, you forget this wasn't even the last stop for Vader. He still had to do the "I'm a fat piece of shit" and step on that foam hammer that was left outside in his Kane feud. I mean, he really just got the raw end of the deal. I think I think this should have worked. I don't think the world was ready for it. The funniest part about the segment is that Cornette, the body condom line, but also Cornette was able to get through it without jerking off. So that's another thing that was well,
he practices promos in the mirrors all the time. So he's just like,
and you said that he didn't let Goldust borrow his ball gag.
The only thing if you want proof that Dustin is dedicated to the art of professional wrestling, it's not him acting like a dog. It's not the ball gag. It's his dirty fucking feet, man. He literally walked through you knew he just walked through the craft services. I mean, and this was the days where DOA and Los Bariquas and all these guys were just backstage who we never saw again. I think members of the DOA actually became part of white supremacist cults and was that right, Robert?
The Harris brothers.
Yes, they're proud members of. They have tattoos.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a wild scene. It was the closest probably wrestling has come to the 70s was that 1997 WWF backstage. But yeah, it was just it's a wild video. Mike, why'd you pick this one for us?
This is just like so, the thing is when everyone talks about the Attitude Era and this whole time, they like think of like the same 5 clips. This is not one of those clips. Is this thing? It's mostly he's got the ball gag, so it's mostly Luna talking, and I think was it WrestleMania? Am I right? WrestleMania 14, where it was Goldust and Luna against Sable and Mero. So
that was 14.
Like it was, yeah. So it felt like it was around that time. I mean, Luna's one of those things. I know she has a dark side coming up, which I'm very interested to see because whatever you say about kayfabe, I believed in Luna Vachon. She's fucking terrifying lady. Because like I remember growing up with Sherry and being like, oh, Sherry's a little weird, and then Luna was like, fuck you, like intense and terrifying. And this, the dirty feet, everything. Like this is why this promo right here is why I forgot which one of you said that he could have had a feud with Austin. This is why he couldn't have. Austin was very good at protecting himself and choosing who to work with, not work with, which I think is, one of his, talents besides like being an amazing talker and wrestler. But like he fucking protected his spot.
Yeah, Austin couldn't have had a feud at the time with a guy who was like, "Ooh, daddy like,"
Exactly.
That wasn't gonna work.
And I mean, it's like, and he's the kind of guy, like Austin's the kind of guy where like, Dustin will be backstage wearing that and be like, "Say hi to your dad for me," but he's not main eventing with him.
Yeah, Scott, what do you think of this clip? Oh wait, we can't hear you.
Scott's on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
So, from what I've read about it, it was during a time where the Goldust character had already kind of run its course. And I guess, it's their fault because a character like that doesn't have to run its course. And so this does feel like a natural progression for me. Like instead of completely abandoning it, kind of just going for weirder and stranger things. He also did like Marilyn Manson dust, right? He did a few other types of dust, and like every week he would be a different kind of weird thing. I kind of get it. I get it to a degree. I actually think it looks okay. And I think the idea of a gimmick being like, you're this cuck and this woman is going to say what you're going to go in and do is kind of hilarious.
The Walker thing was awesome. Coming to the stage.
Yeah.
What if they announced like Walker Texas Ranger is going to be on the show tonight, and then just he came out with a cowboy hat?
I mean, it's amazing because it's like this is very this is the most Russo shit ever. Like this is the difference between them and WCW at the time until WCW got this guy. But it's like this is Howard Stern. This is that freak show.
Oh,
weirdo.
this is
like
This
I was
is
waiting for him to fart and Beetlejuice to pop out.
Yeah. There was about there was a half hour, maybe more, every Attitude Era Raw that was just straight from Jerry Springer, and Goldust was kind of a part of that. Val Venus was a part of that. The Godfather
Could you imagine
was a part
Russo
of that.
backstage with this, like when he first did it for Russo? He's like, "Bro, that's fucking next level," Like he's like, "Bro, you're gonna change fucking perceptions out there. It's unbelievable."
And I guess the narrative has been, I don't know if how true this was, but watching the Dusty documentary a few years ago, like he was doing this to lash out at Dusty.
Yeah.
Wow.
Robert, were you
Aren't they all?
Dust? Did you get turned on at all?
This was peak. It's not easy being a pro wrestling fan growing up, especially in that era. And this is one of those where it's like those rare moments where my dad's like, all right, I'm going to accept the fact that my kid likes pro wrestling as much as you like sports. Let me go try to bomb. Like my fear would like him walking in on this. I would have rather him walked in on like God knows what else, but it's like, please don't walk in at the moment where it's Goldust looking like a tennis ball with a ball gag in his mouth while Luna's screeching, and then be like, well, I guess I'm never having grandkids. This is a great visit. I'm so happy to be here. Like, this is the shit that I would have to try to defend when I'm like, no, I promise you wrestling has gotten better. Steve Austin is cool. You'll like this. The Rock is cool. You'll like this. And then they tune in and it was some of the Goldust stuff where they just let him go too far with the Howard Stern, Jerry Springer, lowest common denominator shit. And it didn't, and it never made money. And I think that's the part of it that's the most frustrating is the Goldust
They
character.
just weren't selling the right merch, Robert.
Well, I'm sure that my Goldust ball gag has appreciated in value over time.
Yeah.
But that's the part that's the most frustrating is that the Goldust character in and of itself could have drawn, and when it came back, it absolutely continued to draw. This little window of time where it was Vince Russo at his most self-indulgent was fairly insufferable. And if you go back and watch those Attitude Era Raws, they're super hit and miss. I sat through all 3 hours of Raw this week, and at least there was nothing on it where I'm like, if my wife came in and saw this, she would be justified to be like, you know what, we had a good run.
I disagree.
So
but we'll get to that later on.
Lily wasn't there this week. No, there was no Lily.
There was no Lily.
Wait a second. Wait, I want to correct what Robert just said. There wasn't Lily, but Reginald stared in the back, and Alexa Bliss was levitating. And then when they looked around, I think she had disappeared. So no,
right, but at least Reginald wasn't wearing assless chaps when he did it.
Yeah, that's true. I think that would have been better, honestly.
The thing is, that like Russo just showed McMahon that one scene from Pulp Fiction, the gimp stuff, and he was like, "This guy's a genius." Like
God damn, this is what I should have done with Warrior.
Yeah, like he even tried to hire Tarantino, probably. They were very much throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck.
Which was actually a gimmick that Dustin pitched.
They would have done that in TNA, but they couldn't afford walls.
Or shit.
They had plenty of that.
Oh, and I think the Goldust Piper thing is really good. And when I rewatch it, I like it. I think it's fun and funny, and it feels very much like a WrestleMania moment.
I loved it when I saw it.
And unlike all the other ones, until I guess a Boneyard match.
I'll tell you this, and I may not be the only one who says this, but I would rather watch that again than the Iron Man match from that Mania.
For sure.
Yeah. I've also seen the Iron Man match a lot,
Also, Roddy is a better, hot take, but I don't think this is that hot. I think a few people have said this, but Roddy's a better character than he was a wrestler. So like seeing him fight in an alley is almost like more like his best wrestling match ever was that one in They Live, the big fight scene in They Live. Like nothing he's done in the ring has touched that, how great that action sequence was.
And he was better at this, I think, than Razor would have been. I think this was a better spot with Roddy. I don't think we would have talked about.
He definitely would have been better at driving, for sure.
Scott Hall is fucking a great wrestler, but I think that the Roddy of it all just made it more like weird and special.
That's true.
But I read on Pritchard, and I know I had a joke about this. They really did try to get OJ for that.
Oh yeah, that absolutely sounds like something Vince would have thought was a good idea. They tried to get OJ a couple different times. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't show up at this point in time. Like you just never know.
Look, if anybody should be a third member of the Hurt Business, it's OJ.
What if one person was upset that they bought that If I Did It book and it wasn't about him talking about how he would have done the Blacklot Brawl?
Let's cut to Mike for our Twitterverse questions. The dark side of the feed. Mike, what do you got this week?
All right. So I asked our Twitter fans, our fans on Twitter, to pitch us a future Dark Side of the Ring episode.
That's fun.
Yeah. So here we go. At Huskers88, Dark Side of Stockholm Syndrome, the true story of Robert Karpeles as a WWE writer. At SmarkNado781, Slimy, the boogeyman's worm that got away. At Chat Mannequin, happy birthday, Shane McMahon, the story of Vince and Shane's relationship. At Promographic Ken, 2 words, Katie Vick. At Dan Bean Sports, the never-ending rivalry of Jeff Hardy versus Field sobriety test. At White Tick, all the ways Bruce Pritchard has kept his job. That's a 2 hour. At Batman Freak, a bag and a handshake, the Randy Orton story. At MMA Locks, Dark Side of the Time, Vince McMahon made Trish Stratus get on all fours and bark like a dog on live television. That's the shortest episode ever. It was funny. At the Sean Calvin, the rise and fall of Scott's relationship with AEW. I like that he thinks there's going to be a fall. At D Tesso, Janetti, that's it. That's the tweet. I'm guessing. I have a legit say, right? Season 4, that'll be. At Smarknado 781.
Well, whenever they find his body from the ocean is when they'll do that.
At Smarknado 781, Nails, was that wrong? Should I not have done that? At Maddie Mills, Dark Side of the Ring, vacant, WWE's most decorated champion that Vince refuses to acknowledge. And in parentheses, that didn't murder his family. At No Time for Rest, underneath the ring, the Titus O'Neil story. At Danielle Isabel, wrestling isn't fake. Vince tore both his hamstring into the ring one time. At Christopher W227, my father the hero, Sam Houston's biography on Grizzly Smith. At Nerdy Agro, Dark Side of the Ring, Sunny fully loaded. At Chom1AK, Dark Side of the Ring, the violence of on-screen contract signings, a study of how a simple procedural matter became polluted with unrelenting aggression and its effects on the manufactured wood industry. At Yarin Zafone, Choppy UPP, aka the day I could no longer watch wrestling in front of my wife. At Dotes McGoats, Dark Side of the Ring, Mrs. Cornette's never-ending train. And finally at the Burt 88, Dark Side of the Ring, Podcast Prison, the story of Robert Karpeles' vicious murder of Scott Chaplin.
Best fans.
That was great. The happy birthday Shane McMahon one guy. That's such a weird thing that the internet has latched onto and made. Like, it comes up every year, and it is the gift that keeps on giving.
What is that?
So Vince McMahon. So here's the deal. Vince McMahon or whoever handles Vince's Twitter account, no matter whose birthday it is, they usually write like this paragraph long glowing thing of like, happy birthday Triple H, a revolutionary wrestler and a master of the sport. Happy birthday to the incomparable Hulk Hogan, once generation. And there was one that just said, happy birthday Shane McMahon. That was it.
Man, it is. You really got to try. Like, you really have to try to be the son of a billionaire and not be accused of nepotism. You know, like he always get like, nobody has ever been like, yeah, that guy. I mean, that guy didn't earn it. You know, I've never heard that about Shane. All right. Staying on the Goldust theme of the show, we're going to be doing some of Dustin's worst gimmicks for Grimmicks. Today, it's Black Rain verse 7. My verse note is, Black Rain is goth Mr. Mistopheles. In one of these clips, in Black Rain, Dustin looks like a purple Oompa Loompa, and he's clearly just doing Luna Vachon's voice. As far as 7, he like in this book, he talks about how 7 was like a blown character, and I just think that's hilarious because like, that means that he's like, no, if we had just stuck it with the creepy pedophile, it would have worked. It would have worked. And 7 is just, I mean, he's BDSM powder, but you know, it's not, you know, like, look, I guess what I would say is like, as far as what I think is the worst gimmick, I think 7 in its original incarnation is worse than Black Rain, but he kind of fixes it because he delivers this promo, which is a shoot promo, and it's really bad, but it's not bad because of him. Like, he actually does a pretty good job. Like, he sticks the landing when he said, you'll never forget the name Dusty Rhodes. It was like there were some people cheering at the end of it, which is really hard to do because he didn't look like fucking Goldust or Dustin at the time. So like, I thought, like, all things considered, again, this Grimmicks even segment is a testament to Dustin's talent, because we're not really talking about, these are all-time bad gimmicks, and we don't really talk about them that much because of how.
Oh wait,
talented
is Black Rain an all-time bad gimmick or an all-time bad physique and costume? Because the idea is kind of right. He's like the shadow of Goldust, like the darkest parts of Goldust. That's kind of okay. But then he looks like Missy Elliott in that music video where all the air is going in her garbage bin.
Super duper dust.
Super duper fly. The thing is that, like, I read that was the 40 pill a day period of Dustin, and Dusty was working in TNA, and so that's how he got that job. Because he was just in a really fucking bad place. But one of the things when we were doing research on this episode, I found out that when Vince pitched Goldust to him originally, he was like, "We want you to be an androgynous character," and he was like, "That sounds great." And then he had to look up what the word androgynous meant. And you feel that with all of these gimmicks, where it's like he didn't grow up that weird, but like he's overcompensating. I need to be weirder and weirder. The fact that I gotta pick, I think 7 is the worst, because we didn't even really get to see it. Like Turner execs like came in and were like, no. And look at all this shit that they greenlit. They're like, making fun of a guy with Bell's palsy, hilarious. 7, no. Like, they were okay with Oklahoma and all the Russo shit. Like,
dude, there was somebody in the crowd with a fat chick Thrilla sign. Wait, maybe that was a Vince Russo. I got to be honest with you. That segment was over.
There was someone in the crowd that it's just the word chode.
That was actually, but it was like,
because 7 apparently that they thought that it was like, is this just a child predator? And Bischoff and Dustin couldn't be like, well, no, because the opening vignette is fucking scary. It's weird, and there is a kid
through a child's window, right?
Yeah, and then he comes.
Did they shoot that in Memphis?
No, it was a boy. But they come out. But they come out and he's like, he does like this shoot promo where he's like got his hillbilly Dustin voice, but the weird, like, I think someone said that he was supposed to be based on the movie Dark City.
Yeah. Which
is really funny because that's also directed by the guy who did The Crow, Alex Proyas. So they were just like, well, fuck. Sting did Gangbusters. Let's just do more Alex Proyas characters.
So your vote is 7's the worst character.
I think 7 because we didn't even really get to see it. Like the fucking Turner execs were like, absolutely not. And that's,
that was also like peak, like child. In the 90s, like the whole John Benet Ramsey thing. It's like it was a little much for sure.
Do we know where Dustin was that night? I guess 7 is.
It was Christmas, so not with his kids.
But I do think
Black Rain's worse.
It was the worst point in his life for sure. Yeah.
So you're gonna say Black Rain, Mike. Scott?
No, I'm saying 7.
7's worse. I'll go Black Rain just because I thought, he kind of stuck the landing with the Dusty promo of it all. Scott, which one's worse?
Oh, I think 7 is worse.
Any reason?
I think Black Rain would have worked if he was in shape.
This is a man who is routinely shit on the Fiend, guys.
Yeah, that is fair.
What? It's just
so, dude, it's so fiendish.
It's Wario Goldust. It's who gives a shit.
I'm gonna defend my client Scott here for a sec, which is that because I when I was watching all this stuff, I was thinking of the Fiend a lot, but then it was like, but they always put this stuff where it should have been. And the Fiend is like world champion main event level. And I think that bothers Scott more, where it's like, if you put it, they definitely should have opened this year's WrestleMania, but if you put it as its own thing for like 5 to 10 minutes, who gives a shit? But when it's like the crux of one of your main shows, not so great.
Here's what bothers Scott the most is that there was a time that the Fiend was one of the highest merch sellers in WWE. And I think it bothers Scott, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a demo of wrestling fans that look up to guys like The Fiend.
Yeah, but I also think if you follow the addresses of all the WWE shop buyers who have bought Fiend merchandise, you could actually pinpoint child sex trafficking in the United States.
I'm gonna say that Scott doesn't like The Fiend because I bet he outsells the Bucks and Omega at Hot Topic.
There's no way. Those kids are too self-aware now because they're 31 and me.
Robert.
So the 7 gimmick, I will give WCW credit at that point in time because they were trying to do something different. This was their version of an amalgamation of Goldust and The Undertaker based on the hat. The entrance itself, they put a lot of effort into it production-wise to make it look cool.
It did look cool.
And then I think what they kind of realized almost immediately was once TNT stepped in with that video, which is like a kid in his bed and then he appears in the window. It looks like the world's scariest Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Yeah.
And they immediately were like, oh, this is child abduction. That one's a little, that doesn't really pass a straight face test, but it's TNT at the time. They hated WCW by 1999. They wanted it off the air. They had no problem burying it. Black Rain is the worst gimmick for me because seeing it, all it does is make you wish that he was Goldust instead. At no point did the Black Rain character stand on its own and you go, you know what? This is an interesting direction for this. I'm glad to get to see this character. Instead, it was just, I wish he was in WWE. I wish they were the ones navigating his character and stopping him from some of his worst impulses. The Black Rain matches were not very good. It was just a lesser version of Goldust, and all it did was make you want to see the real Goldust. What's interesting in AEW now is his current incarnation doesn't make me miss Goldust. It feels like this is the natural progression of who he is. I didn't mean to use the natural pun there. The 7 character, when he did that shoot promo, bro, was fine, except he did the same thing in WWF. When he came out one time and he burned the Goldust wig and he's like, I'm sick of doing this Goldust nonsense. I'm going to be me. And that was when he became the ultra right-wing religious zealot. But the guy in WCW coming out and saying, look, I came here because I don't want to do stupid gimmicks. I just want to wrestle and be who I was supposed to be and take it out on you guys who abused my father and destroyed his legacy. That's a hell of a character that I kind of want to get behind. The problem was the people who were writing it were WCW creative, which you're fucked from the beginning. But I think Black Rain is the lesser gimmick of the two because it was basically just scraps of Goldust.
Which also sounds like a gimmick. Everything that we make fun of sounds like a new Dustin gimmick.
Well, Scraps of Goldust sounds like a Neil Young album. But I think that it's like, you know, the networks have always hated wrestling outside of, you know, Ted Turner himself. And
not the good people of UPN, Mike. The good people of you. It was open programming. That was really their slogan, by the way, was it's open. That's not talked about enough.
We're open for business.
They had to compete against Michigan J Frog. I mean, no, but it's interesting because the whole thing with, I think, TV wrestling, because, you know, you always hear stuff about US too, like the Pillman's Got a Gun thing, where it's like, do what the fuck you want, get us ratings, but just don't cause any problems. And no, it's like you ultimately WCW, WWF, as much as it is mostly by men, children now, like, you know, they were selling toys and shit like that. And if you have a child abduction angle, that doesn't help.
Yes.
I like that you think that WCW was selling toys in '99. Nobody was going out of their way to get a Stro action figure.
They were, Robert, because Chris Jericho went to KB, and when he bought his own Chris Jericho toy, it rung up as Hulk Hogan, and it was the toughest moment of his life.
But that was was that the Lionheart toy that came with the whip and the little lion?
Oh, I wanted that bad.
That was the dumbest thing ever. I love WCW. They were just the company that made those video games. Remember, they made a video game where everything took place backstage.
Yeah.
I
Let's
would
take
say
away
that
the ring.
WCW NWO Revenge gives No Mercy a run for its money as far as fucking awesome video games.
Hold on, let me get Kenny Omega for a minute. Technically, Dan, the engine that was used for WCW NWO Revenge was what was used to make WWF WrestleMania 2000, which became No Mercy until there was the THQ Ukes split that wound up occurring.
There we
Oh,
go.
and the game was WCW Backstage Assault, and that same engine and some of those people were hired back to do the AEW game. So
I'm excited for the AEW game just because I love WWF No Mercy, and if I knew where it was, I'd probably still be playing it to this day.
Amen.
So good.
Amen. Well, before we continue, all this gold dust talk's got me thinking about my private parts. And the Lawnmower 4.0 is the one groin groomer that makes me feel smoother than the Natural's in-ring skills. Speaking of natural, this bush cutter, no lie, has given me the most natural looking trim I've ever had. Every other trimmer I've used had my balls looking like Dusty's forehead, but the Lawnmower 4.0 leaves me with no bumps, no blotches, no errors. It's lights, camera, action on your genitals when you use promo code ROAST20. That's all capitals, ROAST20. This thing, man, it's got an upgraded trimmer. It includes a multifunction on and off switch, LED spotlight. It allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths, sizes 1 through 4, a wireless charging system. I mean, come on, guys, get on board. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ROAST20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use ROAST20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Thank God that was an ad read. I got scared for a second. He's like, we're going to talk about my privates for a minute. And I had to have a second. I'm like, what?
Well, folks, it's time for our last segment of the show. High spot, low spot, something that we liked about wrestling this week, something that we didn't like. I'll start off my high spot. And, you know, by the time you guys have seen this, there'll be another episode of Dynamite. But since we're recording this on Tuesday, MJF for Sammy Guevara, for me, it was everything right about the future of wrestling. I just thought Sammy was fantastic in the match. The tombstone off the second rope. It was, you know, I didn't love the ending as far as like, you know, getting, you know, all the King's horses and all the King's men involved, but the match itself I thought was just a banger of a main event. Low spot, which is Drew McIntyre's new character, which is everything bad about the past. I mean, like, you know, everything right about the future is MJF Sammy Guevara. Everything like wrong about, you know, the past was like was Drew McIntyre this past Monday night. If you hadn't
Can you
seen
explain it to me? I didn't see. Yeah, please explain.
Well, he talks about how his sword was made from the Loch Ness monster, which this is the worst. Like, this is Vince at his worst, who clearly doesn't know.
He's a descendant of from someone from the Alamo.
Yes, and he's a descendant of someone from the Alamo.
Wait. Vince at his worst or Pritchard at his best?
Now, Vince, this is great. He's gonna talk about stuff, and he's like a tall tale. We'll get him a big blue ox.
This was rough, man, and it you know, like all of this was to set up. I mean, the worst thing about this is this was all to set up a Jinder Mahal match. And I was a little bit excited because I was like, oh, okay, if they're going to do Jinder versus Drew now, it means they're not going to do Jinder versus Drew at SummerSlam. But no, my friends, this was actually to begin an angle because it ended in a disqualification, and it ended with Jinder Mahal, who had first come to the arena in a motorcycle, upset that Drew wasn't responding to his text thread. This is all true. And then he stole Drew's sword. So now, like, while Drew should be concentrating on the Money in the Bank match, and the story should be, hey, this is my way back to the championship, he's instead saddled with this fucking Jinder Mahal sword shit, which, like, I don't even think that Jinder is going to have, I mean, this was such a bomb. I don't even think that Jinder is going to have an interference at the Money in the Bank match. I think this is just going to be a straight Raw feud, but we're going to get it for weeks in a row. It's going to be like Jackson Riker, Elias all over again. We also got Jackson Riker beating Cedric, which it would have been my low point, except for Big Swole's tweet afterwards. Yeah. So my high point, MJF, Sammy Guevara. My low point, Drew McIntyre and the Loch Ness Monster.
What was the Big Swole tweet?
She after Jackson Riker beat Cedric, she goes, did anybody want to see him get beat by Minnie Hogan? You know.
And Jackson Riker, just to clarify, it was Jackson Riker and his tag team partner, R-Truth. Yeah, that's a real thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, kids.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And that's wackier than R-Truth hanging out with Vince McMahon.
Yeah, they luckily, you know, they had a main event that was decent, which was Lashley and MVP versus the New Day, which was, you know, it was good, it was fine, but all in all, I mean, the Drew stuff is just, you know, you had the guy beat Lesnar, and now you're doing this shit. What Robert, you mentioned it a little bit on something Sports Entertainment with, but you and I are both big Drew fans. I mean, you know, this is it just feels like
this is grim death. This is it. This is they need to turn him into Black Rain tomorrow. They started giving him this gimmick where everything he was talking about, he tied back to Scottish history. And it was stupid and nobody liked it. So their decision now is he's just going to bring up ridiculous stuff and pass it off as history. But it has this flop sweat to it. When Drew was a babyface champion a year ago, it was somewhat more effortless at the beginning, his promos. This idea of I'm smarter than everybody else, and I come across as being completely in control, whereas now he sounds like a raving lunatic. And it's bad when the only positive thing Dan was able to text during this was, I really like Drew's jacket. It's a great jacket. And I also love that Jinder Mahal's character is now, he's just a guy going through a midlife crisis. He has a motorcycle and a sword.
It's bad. I mean, even his finisher stinks. It's like a half-assed rock bottom, the Colossus.
I have a question.
And also, isn't it like he's got a big guy, AJ has a big guy, Apollo has a big guy, like.
Well, the problem is Vince
Shayna Baszler has a big guy.
Vince had this edict where it's like, hey, we need more big people. But all the big people that they signed are like, they can't fucking move. They're all like Great Khali, you know? Scott, what you were saying?
Doesn't it, again, I didn't see it, but you said Drew didn't answer one of Jinder's texts.
Yeah, that's
Drew
why
the bad guy.
Oh no, Drew answered Jinder's text, but he was upset that he didn't spell out the word two. He didn't spell out two T-O-O.
You're joking.
No. Oh no, I wish I was, Scott. This was a grown man on television, a former world champion, complaining. He goes, I asked Drew to go riding motorcycles with me. And he said like he was too busy, but rather than spelling out two T-O-O, he just wrote the number 2. And this is now why Jinder wants him dead.
And this is why me and Scott don't do something to sports entertainment.
No way.
Scott, what was your high point, low point this week? High spot, low spot, sorry.
All right. Well, high spot. I mean, I thought AEW was really amazing, but my high spot this week is specifically there is a guy on Twitter, Chris Brosnahan, Brosnahan, right? He has an entire thread explaining the Hangman Adam Page storyline since his days in even New Japan. And how it intertwines with Kenny's. And I think that the Dark Order segment last week was perfect. I think this storyline, the Kenny story and the Hangman story, and both of their stories continuously intersecting into what's happening now, is the best storyline, one of the best storylines I've ever seen in my entire life.
Is Chris Brosnahan Excalibur's real name?
Dude, it's so good. I'm gonna send it to you guys, and I'll post it on the Twitter. This shit rules hard, man. You sit back and watch this. Woo! Well, you don't watch it, you read it, but man.
Why would I read it when I talk to you enough?
It's magic. And
that's like you looking up other people's rants about the Black Widow movie. I'm here.
And then my low spot is the damn Patriot died 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Which is really messed up my plans. which was to shit on the Patriot all 4th of July weekend. No, I don't know. But yeah, no, that bummed me out, actually. I met him in Wildwood, New Jersey one summer. My dad took me to a wrestling event. It's like one of the only things me and my dad
He was
ever
working at
went
Six
to.
Flags.
Every week, it's always like someone's got met when it's like, you're like the Z-League of shitty wrestlers.
I remember Crowbar was in the main event, but Patriot took pictures with everybody after. Patriot and King Kong Bundy. And he
Scott,
was
remember
massive.
when you co-hosted a podcast with a former WWE writer? You've been everywhere.
And also I will say this, because it was about to be my low spot. Somebody said that Terry Funk wasn't doing well, but
dementia, apparently.
But well, hold on though. This is the first time I was ever excited about a Tommy Dreamer tweet. Tommy Dreamer wrote just a little while ago, everyone needs to relax.
I'm thinking of killing myself.
He wrote, everyone needs to relax. I just got off the phone with Terry Funk. He is not in bad health. He loves everyone talking about him. Direct quote from Funker. I'm currently sitting in an assisted living place with my thumb up my ass, whistling Dixie, but I don't remember the words.
He answered Tommy Dreamer's phone call. He is in bad health. No, I mean, we
You think
all
Tommy Dreamer goes to the assisted living facility and be like, "Oh, I was the big," like, just to convince him he was the biggest wrestler ever, like everyone in the assisted living facility?
Can you imagine that really said Tuesdays with Terry? It's just Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer just going in like, remember when we did this in ECW? Yeah. Remember when we did this?
They sit at the table, but they never use it for what a table's supposed to be used for. I heard about the dementia and all of that. We all love Terry. And yeah, hopefully he's okay. I mean, fucking legend, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading his book now. It's
Dan, do you read books or do you listen to audiobooks? Because I'm sick and tired of my friends telling me they read books and they're just listening to goddamn podcasts. I do both. I have written out podcasts.
Dan goes to Terry's living facility and just has him tell the same 3 stories.
I do both, Scott, to answer your question.
Okay.
I'm a cultured man. Mike, what's your high spot, low spot?
My high spot is we got a thumbs up and a positive from Colt Cabana. I know that you were on his Wrestling Anonymous podcast, which is great. But getting that validation from Colt is awesome. I mean, the dude, fucking, without him, I don't think you get the amount of wrestling podcasts there are, or the elevated level of them. He's the dude who fucking opened the door for everybody else, and so that's awesome. My low spot, I found this out. This is one of my last shreds of kayfabe dying. I did not know this. If you guys all knew this, you could laugh at me. But I found out that Sergeant Slaughter didn't actually serve in the military and that it was all made up. And that Bob Remus is full of shit. Like that he still goes on podcasts and talks about serving. It's like a very stolen valor thing. I didn't know about this. And then I looked deep into it, and there are people within the military, because it's very easy to find if someone's in the service or not. And yeah, there's lots of people like, no. And you could see him like on, I think, the Jim and Sam show, just talking about being an infantryman in Vietnam and all of that. And so he like really like believes in his own gimmick. It's really fucking weird. But
I did not know that,
because I really would have thought like,
man, he should have run against Linda. He wouldn't send it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's no way that like, Jesse Ventura wasn't the first to find out. Like, so what part of the school did you blow up back then, Bob?
Stolen valor.
I was a Navy, I was a frogman. What the fuck were you, Bob?
Dude, Jesse Ventura is fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
like,
and I do believe legit serviceman, but fucking Sergeant Slaughter. Not did you know that, Robert?
I never thought that he ever portrayed himself as being ex-military. So I guess
portrayed himself as current military.
Well, there's the character and on TV, but then in interviews he would also do USO tours and talk about how great it was to meet fellow soldiers. Fucking asshole.
It's kind of fucking hilarious, though.
Anybody
else lying about their service, it's awful, but Sergeant Slaughter lying about his service is kind of funny.
Yeah, it fits wrestling and what wrestling is and how you can't back down even though it's offensive now to be saying that. Yeah. To have a gimmick like that and not to have served. But dude, John Cena, though, I mean, think about that on some level. He never served and he's out here saluting and shit.
Dude, he helped kill Osama bin Laden.
That's true.
Robert, what's your high spot, low spot of the week?
So I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to start with my low spot and then try to go with the high spot at the end. So we're on a positive note. My low spot this week, which this was a breaking story today when we recorded it. So maybe it'll have a different ending and we'll find out we're all wrong. But Jimmy Uso got arrested for yet another DUI, his fourth DUI, his fifth arrest total as it relates to driving. This is, I made a not a joke about it on Twitter. It was mainly just anger at this point. It's like the dude was going 55 miles an hour, blew through a stoplight, blew a 0.20, maybe blew 2, it'd be dead. He blew a 0.205 when the legal limit is 0.08, which means this wasn't, hey, he had 3 beers instead of 2 and it was a got you. He was not sober and he was behind the wheel of a car. And it's very hard to have any kind of sympathy for someone who, I understand people have alcohol abuse problems. When you've had 4 different DUIs, including 2 as recently as 2019, don't get behind the wheel of a car because at that point you're endangering other people. What's shitty about it is he had these transgressions a few years ago. He supposedly had worked through it. The WWE put him back on television in a very prominent role. If you watch SmackDown this past week, he was all over that damn thing. He's one of the big stars on the show. He's part of this Roman Reigns Edge storyline. It's been very compelling.
All the more reason to party. Am I right, guys?
By the way, 0.205 was the ratings his segment got.
Yes. You know it was bad when he got pulled over and they tried to convince him it was Jay. But
wait. Have we considered that he lived right down the street? Have we considered that it was a couple blocks away from home?
No, here's a more important question: Is any penitentiary he's in an Uso penitentiary?
That is that's the beauty of Jimmy Uso in there. It just sucks because they gave this guy yet another chance. They've wasted TV time with him. Now, obviously, they don't know what they're going to do because the video of him that's out there, it's not like he has a leg to stand on as a defense, nor did he have a leg to stand on when they pulled him out of the car. And it's real shitty because you've killed this storyline right now with the momentum for it, on top of the fact that he was reckless and this could have been a much worse situation. It sucks. My high spot of the week actually comes from AEW Dynamite. This was their last show in Jacksonville before going on the road, and their production crew put together a video that really made their time filming in Jacksonville feel epic. Unlike WWE Thunderdome, where if they had to recap all of the great moments that happened, it would be a fallacy. But Dynamite managed to create compelling television over the last 18 months or so, and that encapsulated it. And I think I speak for everyone when I say, folks, there's nothing in your life that will top seeing a live WWE Dynamite.
I do think that they could have done like.
Oh, no, Dan, I just wanted to bury Jim Ross. I was totally like, the video package was okay. It was just a chance to take a shot at senile Jim Ross.
No, I think that they should have done, WWE should do a montage of all the freaks that have been in the Thunderdome. Like, I would love maybe like with Sarah McLachlan's in the Arms of the Angel. Do you remember that first Thunderdome show when it was like Benoit, it was like somebody getting executed, it was a guy in a Klan hood drinking.
Yeah, it was a beheading video.
Beheading video, a guy with a Klan hood just drinking.
I will neither confirm nor deny that the production folks have a tape that they constantly update of the most bizarre looking fans over the years that they've caught from off camera. I will not confirm or deny that I have seen this multiple times and laughed my ass off.
Oh,
There
dude,
is
you gotta send it to us. Is there
if
any
I
way
had
to-
it, no, that doesn't leave. It's never left the building. It's literally in the vault they have there. But they guarantee you they've been piecemealing all of these people in their homes or shanties who are watching from the Thunderdome.
Is My Sacrifice playing in the background of that video?
I want to talk about the Uso thing for a sec because I mean substance addiction and all that is very sad. I'm not gonna make fun of him for that, but the drunk driving stuff, fuck him. Yep. If they don't fire this guy, there's something wrong. The amount of DUIs, just endangering people like that, even if Floridians.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it: you're drunk. You don't fucking know. He thinks he's like regular, and he gets in the car.
No, but,
he's drunk.
Like
it's terrible, and you
Scott,
go, yes,
you
you
should
should
have
be
been a lawyer.
punished. But you don't go, fuck him. Yeah, this is my Uncle Vinny.
No, this is the fourth time. Okay, I mean, do I want to see Heyman defend him like my cousin, my client Jimmy Uso? But nah, I mean, for the petty shit that people get fired for this company, if they protect this guy, there's something wrong. This is just one time too many. I think.
I mean, he should go to like a fucking 90-day rehab.
They're after Scott now. That's what the sirens are.
Oh shit! Sorry.
No. Jimmy's back on the road.
Do you think they fire him? I mean, I guess we'll find out soon. And
I think
I'm sure everybody will know by the time they listen to us. I hope they don't.
I just think it's been so many times, and I think that they really have tried to help the guy, and he deserves to still get help. But I just don't think that he should be a part of this company.
Look, I'll be the cold asshole. Yes, they should fire him because based on this track record, you can't trust him as a television character anymore. You can't invest time in someone who is this reckless on a personal level. When they've made a habit over the years of trying to thin out the wrestlers who are really liabilities to them. Jeff Hardy is the rare exception, and Jeff, since he's been back under this recent bent, has been very well behaved, but it's why they were hesitant to get behind him. Not only did they bring Jimmy Uso back, they got behind him in such a way right now where they could have done Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns headlining a pay-per-view, and it would have made complete and total sense and been an exciting match that fans would have really been into. You can't invest in him as a television character anymore. They just fired, one of you guys sent a picture of all the releases of 2021, it looked like an entire company that got let go. It's not like those guys got let go for detrimental behavior where getting arrested. Jimmy may wind up going to jail for this. That's the other part of this. This may not be is he going to be released or not? This is his fourth offense for a DUI. I got to imagine that someone's going to try to make a name for himself and push for some kind of jail time, at which point you can't keep him anymore. And if you do bring him back, it needs to be after extensive rehab and a chance for him to get his act together when he was just off television for the better part of a year going through the rehab for his injury. They need to show, you need to show some kind of real progress and contrition going forward before you can trust putting him on TV, let alone putting him on the road.
Yeah,
I've had, as the person on this podcast probably has had the most substance abuse problems, and I've definitely made a fair share of my mistakes. I do think the best thing they could do is have some sort of consequence for him. That may be the only thing that wakes him up. And just look, if you're gonna get drunk, it's one thing if it was the 90s or even the 2000s, but there's Uber now. There's Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, but dude, he probably just saw Fast 9 or whatever,
He was actually.
You don't take an Uber after seeing
Scott's
Fast 9.
mullet is actually talking now, not Scott.
Scott's right. He was actually pulled over in space with Ludacris next to him.
Dude, I just saw Fast 9, and Mike's right. The whole movie is just Cena scowling.
Yeah.
And the guy they get to play young Cena is it's just so funny because he looks like he's an American Pie or something. It's from a whole different universe, but
he's just scowling. So it's just B-roll footage from his Total Divas run.
And
just listening to Nikki.
Dude, how pissed is Nikki right now? Because he just came out in the press saying, I think I could be a dad. So like I guess that whole crux of that show was I don't want to have kids, and now it was like, no, I just didn't want to have kids with you. I didn't want to have kids with you.
Who said John Cena wasn't a heel? He's the best heel.
I just wanted to clarify too that like I do believe in second chances, or look, we covered Dustin Rhodes this week, fifth chances. The guy got fired so many times. I just feel like he needs to just go away for a while, clean up, and the WWE should not be looked at as enabling him, which is what I think they're doing if they continue employing him.
Well, it's a very recent news story.
I wasn't thinking of consequence, but you're right. I think you do have to fire a guy.
It's a crime.
That sucks.
You just hope it. If it's a 4th DWI, you really do hope the guy doesn't, kill himself or somebody else. Like that's the thing you kind of want to.
Well, yeah, you go 4 and you go, man, these cops got to have it out for this guy, right? Right, guys?
Yeah, no, this was clearly profiling, because when you're doing 55 going through a red light in the 30, they're clear. Everybody does that. They were just going after him.
55 and a 30 is the law, I think. I think that's what they actually mean when it says
Florida,
30.
that's on the test. If you don't do that during the driving test, they take away your license.
Do you think also when he's pulled over, he cuts like a promo like he does on SmackDown? Why you pull me over, man?
What the fuck was that? That sounded like a Fat Albert character.
I'm an Uso.
I feel like he should be coming.
Shit, I just realized Bill Cosby's available now. We got SummerSlam coming up.
Maybe they can dust off the Nails character and Jimmy can come back as like the new Samoan Nails. That'd be kind of cool. Yep, that's the silence that deserved. Folks, we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be doing the roast of Kurt Angle. We're going to not just be doing the roast of Kurt Angle and Brightside and Show and Hell. We're going to be doing Kurt Angle's bestiality promo, which Mike will tweet out. But we're also going to be doing a segment called Ain't This Swell, where Kurt Angle wins a gold medal. I've never seen it before. We're going to watch it, give you guys some feedback. For Grimmicks, we're going to decide Mr. America or the Patriot. And as always, high spot, low spot. And look, if you need more Patreon fill this week, kick it up $5, folks, and hear me and Robert talk about the Bash and Road Rager in that Miami strap match between QT Marshall and the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Please leave us 5 stars. Please leave a positive review. Please tell your friends about it. If you're on wrestling forums, post about it. We really appreciate all the love we get. We got a Facebook group, join it. We got a YouTube channel, subscribe. A lot of stuff you can do with the show. And I appreciate I was on the Facebook page today. You guys were giving me some ideas for some stuff we can do in September. Possibly a watch along episode, which I think would be kind of fun for us to do with our live audience. Perhaps that'll be next month. That'll be in September when they dust off a Night of the Champions or some show. But that's it for me, folks. Scott?
Scott_Chaplin on Instagram and Twitter.
Robert.
You can follow me on Twitter at WWEcreative_ISH. And again, the Something to Sports Entertainment with tier, in addition to the show that Dan and I are going to be recording, talking about Great American Bash and Road Rager. There was a bonus episode breaking down this past week's Raw segment by segment and getting into not only why the Drew character doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, but how they can actually salvage this thing. So that's definitely fun. And thanks to everyone that's participating in the Facebook group. It's been a hell of a lot of fun.
You know how you save the Drew character? You have him take a 23andMe test and he's not Scottish. And just have him be something more interesting.
Oh, they make him Jamaican. Yeah. And then him and Kofi for dude, it's a Drew day. Yes, it is.
Him and Kofi with the accent hanging from the rafters.
Awesome. To Dan's point about the 5. Sorry.
I was gonna say, if Drew is the Chet Hanks of wrestling, I'm all for it.
White Boy Summer would be a great gimmick for Drew McIntyre.
That's Jinder's new character. Robert? I was gonna say, I love what Dan was talking about the 5-star reviews. I was looking at some of the reviews on iTunes where they're like, "This is my favorite podcast. It's the best ever." 4.5. I'm just like, what the maybe your standards are a bit too high, guys.
Yeah, my iTunes it says 4.5, but is yours 4.7?
Mine was 4.7, but I'll do a live update now while we're reading it to see what it says.
Thanks, Meltzer Dan.
Yeah, that just sounds like Meltzer's reviewing us. This was a wonderful podcast. 4.5.
I still see 4.7. I mean, it's a solid show.
Oh, wait, Mike, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I out of habit, I went on the Observer podcast page and it said, "You're no longer a subscriber." And it was like the end of Good Will Hunting when Ben Affleck shows up and Matt Damon wasn't there. I'm like, I'm not there. And I smile on my face. And then I listened to some Wade Keller. Mike?
I was gonna be the Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting and say it's not your fault.
It's for sure my fault.
Yeah. I was gonna say, subscribe to both our tiers on Patreon because, you know, for the amount of listeners that we don't have that many Patreon subscribers for the $5 or $10 tier, and you know, we're really proud of the stuff that we put out. I think the Cornette roast that we did this week was fucking great. I think all of our Patreon roasts, I think all of our Patreon content, including the Something to Sports Entertain With. So if you like what we do, guys, just let us keep doing it. I mean, you listen to us every week. We don't have social skills for regular jobs. Please give us more money.
This sounds like Mike begging his wife to let him continue doing this with us. Please, it makes me happy.
I'm telling you, I can raise a child and write Lita jokes at the same time.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.